I'm a 38-year-old single dad raising my two children, ages 10 and 12, after their mother passed away a few years ago. We've faced tough times, but together we've built a warm, stable home. My kids are amazing, kind, smart, and resilient despite their loss. They're my purpose, my drive, my everything. About a year and a half ago, I met a woman, let's call her Sarah, at a friend's barbecue. She was 34, lively, and had a charm that pulled people in. We hit it off right away, and soon we were a couple. Sarah seemed to accept my role as a father. She spent time with my kids, taking them for ice cream or to the park, and I valued her effort. My children were polite but guarded around her, likely hesitant after losing their mom. I figured they'd need time to adjust, which seemed fair. Sarah appeared to understand that my kids were my top priority. She'd commend my commitment as a dad and talk about wanting to join our family. It felt comforting to have someone who seemed to respect our bond. As our relationship grew, Sarah occasionally stayed over, and my kids didn't seem to mind. They weren't overly excited, but they weren't against it either. I thought we were all finding our rhythm. Looking back, I missed some warning signs. Sarah started making remarks about our house, suggesting it needed a makeover or that the kids' rooms could use a new style. I dismissed it, thinking she just wanted to add her touch. She also spoke about our future, vacations we might take, perhaps even having a child together. I wasn't against the idea, but I always made it clear my kids came first. She'd agree, but now I wonder if she truly understood. Another red flag was her brother, Mark. She mentioned him now and then, often with frustration. Mark was jobless, living with their parents, and seemed directionless. Sarah called him a burden but felt duty-bound to support him. I didn't think much of it. Family issues are common. But later, I realized Mark was more troubled than I'd known. He couldn't hold a job, made reckless choices, and showed no ambition. Still, I didn't see it as a deal-breaker. After a year together, I began thinking about marriage. Sarah had been hinting at it, showing me ring styles and talking about venues, and I felt prepared. My kids were doing well, our life was steady, and I believed Sarah and I could create a future together. I planned a thoughtful proposal at a park where we'd had an early date. When I asked her to marry me, she glowed, said yes, and we celebrated our shared vision. It felt like everything was aligning. The weeks after the proposal were filled with excitement. Sarah dove into wedding planning, fixating on details like decorations and locations. I was busy with work and parenting, so I let her lead. But soon her comments about the house became sharper. She'd call it cozy but small, or suggest it needed a more polished look. I wasn't sure what she meant by polished, but I let it pass, assuming she was eager to merge our lives. Then came the suggestions. She proposed clearing out the kids' belongings to make more space or storing their things for a tidier appearance. Each comment seemed small, but together, they felt like she was trying to overhaul our home. I stayed silent, not wanting to make a fuss. But when she suggested turning the kids' art room, a space we all treasured, into a guest room, I drew a line. That room was where my kids painted and where I worked late nights. It was untouchable. Sarah didn't argue, but her annoyance was obvious. She muttered about needing space for everyone, and I let it go. Around this time, Mark's name came up more often. Sarah said he was still with their parents but needed a temporary fix. She hinted he might need our help, and I sensed she was leading up to something. Then she asked if Mark could join us for dinner to meet me and the kids. I agreed, curious about him. The dinner was awkward. Mark showed up late, unkempt, and spent the evening complaining about his life. He barely engaged with the kids, who were let down, and I struggled to keep things civil. After he left, Sarah acted like it went well. I disagreed but didn't press it. Soon, Sarah's requests grew bolder. She suggested Mark could live with us after the wedding, just for a while. When I asked where he'd stay, she pointed to the kids' art room. I reminded her it was their space, and she brushed it off as no big deal. The conversation fizzled, but it left me unsettled. Then I noticed Sarah's interactions with my kids changing. She started asking about their school and routines, which seemed normal until she made strange comments about them needing structure or how they might flourish in a different environment. My daughter asked me what a boarding school was, saying Sarah had mentioned it. That raised red flags. When I confronted Sarah, she laughed it off, saying she was just exploring how boarding schools offer great opportunities. I told her to drop it, and she got defensive, insisting she was only trying to help. The cracks in our relationship were becoming clear. Sarah seemed less focused on blending into our family and more on reshaping it to fit her vision. I felt pushed into compromises that didn't feel right. The breaking point came one evening when Sarah sat me down for a serious talk. The kids were upstairs, and I was relaxing after work. She looked determined, like she'd practiced her words. "We need to talk about how we'll make this work after we're married," she began. I nodded, cautious. "This house isn't big enough for all of us," she said. "We need to make adjustments." "What kind of adjustments?" I asked, already on edge. She took a breath. "I think we should consider boarding schools for the kids. They'd get a top-notch education, make new friends, and learn independence." I was stunned. "Boarding school? Are you serious?" She doubled down. "I've looked into it. It's a solid option, plus it would free up space here." "For what?" I pressed, sensing her real motive. She paused, then said, "Mark could move in. He needs a stable place to get his life together." I couldn't believe it. "You want to send my kids away so your jobless brother can take their rooms?" She sighed, like I was being unreasonable. "It's not just about Mark. It's about us building a life together. This would help everyone." "Help everyone?" I snapped. "My kids need their home, their dad, their stability, not to be sent away because Mark can't get his act together." She pushed back, calling me stubborn, insisting boarding school wasn't a bad idea. The argument heated up until she gave an ultimatum. "If you can't prioritize my family, maybe we shouldn't get married." I looked her in the eye. "You're asking me to choose between you and my kids. That's not a choice." She stood, angry. "This is your call. I won't settle for less." Then she left. That night, I knew our relationship was over. The next shock came when Mark showed up unannounced. It was a weekend morning, and I was making breakfast while the kids watched TV. A loud knock interrupted us. I opened the door to find Mark, grinning like he belonged. "Hey, just stopping by," he said. "Sarah said I might be moving in soon, so I wanted to see the place." I was floored. "There's no plan for you to move in," I said. He laughed. "Come on, Sarah said it's practically done." Before I could stop him, he walked in, lounging on the couch like it was his. My kids looked confused, and I sent them upstairs. Sarah arrived soon after, acting like Mark's visit was no big deal. "I forgot to mention he was coming," she said casually. I wasn't buying it. "You've been making plans behind my back," I said. "This stops now." Mark chimed in, saying he just needed a place to crash, but I cut him off. "This is my home, and you're not moving in." He left, grumbling, and I turned to Sarah. "This is unacceptable." She accused me of overreacting, but I'd had enough. "If you can't respect my family, we're done," I said. She stared, shocked, then left without a word. Canceling the wedding was chaotic. Sarah demanded I cover the caterer deposit, claiming I owed her since I'd ended things. I reminded her I paid for the venue and other expenses, but she wouldn't budge, even threatening to sue. She also spread lies, telling friends and family I'd abandoned her and refused to help Mark. Some believed her, and I dealt with uncomfortable calls and accusations. My close friends and family stood by me, but the drama was exhausting. Sarah showed up one last time to pick up her things. As she left, she sneered, "You'll regret this. You threw away a better life." I didn't waver. I protected my kids. "That's what matters." She walked out, and the house felt calm again. My kids noticed the shift and seemed relieved when I told them Sarah wouldn't be their stepmom. "We're still a family," I said, and they smiled. But the drama didn't end there. Sarah ramped up her smear campaign, telling mutual friends and even some of my relatives I'd been cruel and controlling. I got calls from people demanding answers, some sympathetic, others critical. A friend, John, asked, "Did you really make Sarah's life hell?" I set the record straight. "She wanted to send my kids to boarding school so Mark could move in." John apologized, but not everyone was so understanding. Mark didn't help. He sent me a threatening text. "You're a coward for not helping family. I might come by to take what's mine." His audacity stunned me. I hadn't taken anything from him. I just refused to let him disrupt my home. Worried he might show up, I changed the locks. For a while I stayed on edge, but then things quieted down. A friend later explained why. Mark had stolen thousands from Sarah's bank account during a reckless spree. He disappeared afterward, leaving her to handle the fallout. Her finances were wrecked, and she was stuck with his debts. Then, unbelievably, Sarah showed up at my door, begging for help. "Mark took everything," she pleaded. "I don't know what to do." I didn't hesitate. "This isn't my problem," I said. "You chose to prioritize Mark over my kids. Now you're dealing with the consequences." She snapped, calling me cold, but I stood firm. You need to leave, I said. She left, defeated. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's lies fell apart. Friends pulled away as Mark's actions came to light, and people saw the truth. I don't regret ending things. Choosing my kids was the right decision. This experience taught me to guard my family's peace and only welcome those who respect it. My kids are my everything, and that will never change.